This special meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 3:31 p.m. Very pleased that you've taken time to join us. In compliance with the State Government Code on open meetings, today's agenda has been appropriately posted. We've established a quorum, and we will call roll. If you'll please indicate your presence. Yeah, it didn't go. Do it again. There we go. All right, please note that we have one board member absent, Mr. Macias. We are in First order of business is our public comment period. This is a time for citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. A meeting that's open to the public under the Act is one that the public is entitled to attend. However, the Act does not give the public a right to speak at such public meetings except to address their grievances through the proper channels. As a courtesy to the public, the Judson Independent School District Board of Trustees allows time for public comment. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meeting, so make sure you sign up for a public audience when you have comments to present. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes to complete his or her comments. As the presiding officer, I will strictly enforce that time limit. Also, profanity, yelling, inappropriate, uncivil, or discriminatory comments will not be permitted. By law, the Judson Independent School District Board of Trustees cannot discuss, deliberate, make comments, or make a decision on any matter raised in the public comment period, which is not specifically listed on the board agenda for this meeting. With those cautions in mind, we'll now be glad to hear the general comments. Roger Romans, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. You were at the podium, at the microphone.
Good evening, board. My name is Roger Romans. This grievance meeting is a very important meeting. I understand a little bit of the background. Anytime any board member up here engages in social media and utilizes your title as Judson Independent School District Board of Trustees, that individual is speaking for each and every one of you up here. Because that stuff goes out to the public, and it's very important. Well, when an individual is utilizing social media for cyberbullying, what kind of message is that telling the kids in school, this anti-bullying? I find it appalling that we have to have a grievance come up to this level because of cyberbullying by a board member. If that reflects on the character of each and every one of you by not taking appropriate actions, me as a taxpayer, I find it appalling that I have to have this process go through, waste all this tax-paying money, not for the education of children, but because individuals want to bring petty politics into organizations to attack residents. When politics is brought up to here, it's ridiculous, because it should not be petty politics trying to attack individuals and communities. It should be about going and doing what's right for the children and getting the education of children. So this is a reflection on each and every one of you if you don't take appropriate actions in this matter. Thank you very much.
We are in open session to consider the Level 3 grievance appeal of Mr. Christopher Garza. Mr. Garza is appealing the Level 2 grievance decision made by Dr. Nicole Taganot, Assistant Superintendent of Employee and Public Relations. This grievance is being heard in open session by request of Mr. Garza. I want to caution Mr. Garza that should complaints be made against officers or employees of the district during the course of his presentation, then the grievance will be taken into closed session pursuant to Sections 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. If at any time complaints are made against officers or employees of the district during the course of his presentation, we will announce the following. As previously outlined, since complaints have been made against officers or employees of the district, the board will now convene into closed session under the authority of Texas Government Code Section 551.074. It's January 30th, 2025, and it is now 3:36 p.m. We are meeting to hear the Level 3 grievance of Mr. Garza, and we will now proceed to hear the grievance at Level 3. The following board members are present: Stephanie Faulkner, Laura Stanford, Deborah Eaton, Arnoldo Salinas, Monica Ryans, and myself, Suzanne Kenoyer. The school board's attorney, Jamison C. Baker, is also present to advise the board and the board president with respect to this proceeding. I will now ask each member of the board whether he or she is able to serve as an impartial member of this hearing body and to arrive at a decision based solely upon information and documentation presented at this grievance presentation. Any member not able to act in such a manner may say so and ask to be excused. Ms. Laura Stanford, are you able to serve as an impartial member of this hearing body and to arrive at a decision based solely upon information and documentation presented at this grievance presentation?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Ms. Deborah Eaton, same question.
Yes, Madam President, I am.
Ms. Monica Ryan, same question.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Mr. Salinas, same question.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Ms. Stephanie Faulkner.
Yes.
I am Suzanne Canoyer, and I am able to serve as an impartial member of this hearing body and arrive at a decision based solely upon information and documentation presented at this grievance presentation. A record is being made of the proceedings before the board in this Level 3 grievance appeal. In order to provide the most accurate record possible, a recording of the proceedings is being made. Please avoid talking when others are speaking, so the record will report these proceedings accurately. As a part of the record of this Level 3 grievance, the superintendent has supplied each board member with copies of the original grievance filed by Mr. Garza, all responses, and any written documentation previously submitted by Mr. Garza, as well as the administration, related to this grievance conference. The official record of this grievance will be comprised of the recording of what is presented here tonight and any transcript made of that recording, the correspondence and documents relating to this grievance which would have been supplied to the board by the superintendent as a Level 2 record, any additional documents considered by the board at this proceeding, the Judson Independent School District's board policies concerning public complaints at GF Legal and GF Local, the agenda of this meeting, and the minutes of this meeting once approved. For the record, Mr. Garza is present for this Level 3 grievance proceeding. Mr. Garza, would you please identify yourself for the record?
Hi, I'm Mr. Garza.
Will the members of the administration present please identify themselves for the record?
Dr. Rob Fields, Superintendent of Judson ISD.
Nicole Taganod, Assistant Superintendent.
I'm Hannah Kramer. I'm an attorney sitting with the administration today.
Thank you. I will now instruct the parties regarding the procedures to be followed in this hearing. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with the district's policy governing public complaints located at GF Local. The order of this proceeding will be as follows. There are no opening statements other than what the parties present in their statements in making this record. First, Mr. Garza will present his Level 3 grievance to the board. This is Mr. Garza's opportunity to fully present his grievance for the purpose of this record. In the interest of fairness, when Mr. Garza has completed his Level 3 appeal presentation, I similarly will allow the administration to give the administration's response. As the presiding officer of this hearing, pursuant to Board Policy GF Local, I'm imposing reasonable time limits on the grievance presentation by Mr. Garza and the response by administration. Mr. Garza will be allotted 15 minutes to make his presentation. The administration will then have 15 minutes to respond. After the conclusion of both parties' presentation, I will allow each party 3 minutes to give a rebuttal statement. At the end of that time, board members may ask questions of either party. This is a grievance presentation and not a formal evidentiary hearing. There will be no questioning or cross-examination of witnesses by the parties to this grievance. Within the specified timelines, Mr. Garza will make his presentation, which may include statements and references to the documents previously submitted by Mr. Garza and by the administration. The administration then will be given an opportunity to respond in kind. The board will not consider documentation not previously submitted by Mr. Garza unless Mr. Garza did not know the documents existed, nor will the board consider any complaints that were not timely submitted in accordance with the applicable grievance policy. Board members may ask such questions of the parties as will aid their understanding of the grievance or the administrative response. But the parties will not ask questions directly to one another. If any board members have questions, however, I request that they refrain from interrupting or asking those questions until I call for questions so that we can maintain an accurate record of the time used by each party. Are there any questions regarding the procedures for the hearing?
No.
I'm fine.
Mr. Garza, you may now proceed with your Level 3 grievance presentation.
Good afternoon. My complaint boils down to one thing, and it's the participation and/or turning a blind eye to a board member or its members' participation in online bullying. As my last Level 3 complaint exposed, situations in which current members of your board participated in online bullying, there wasn't action to even look into my claims as a matter and as a matter of fact, the school's attorney, rather than advising you of the issue to take corrective action, state claimed that I was outside of my time limitation in reporting. This limitation being a 2-week window from the time that this occurrence happened. But let me be clear, online bullying doesn't have a timed window. Even if it's posted years in advance, it can, and in my case, still affect my everyday life. I want to be clear that I indeed do have a misdemeanor conviction, as many of you have been caught up in the legal system will sometimes receive. However, my conviction and my interest in being involved in my community and my city politics has undoubtedly created an avenue to not only be ridiculed, but also to have a very specific language adopted by this school board, as well as an overturned ordinance locally that has tried to bar me from my rights as a taxpayer. Understand, I could run for a spot on this school board, even though you have barred me from participating in salsa contests or donating my time and efforts to the parents and children of my community. This is all because a small group of residents who don't agree with my local politics were looking for ways to further incriminate me and make it more difficult to reach or help those in my area. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that you have current board members who have engaged in online bullying, and I have presented proof that it has continued. Now, I'm of the belief that there is not a way for a person or group of people to actively pretend that they are against bullying when they actively engage in it. I've come to a few meetings to express my distaste for your engagement in local politics and have openly called out your own indiscretions, of which I'm sure you would not like to be judged. Now, when I have openly posted these items online and watched people gasp in what they don't know, I've had members react in manners of which I would expect. I've done these things with an intent to prove my point that when being specific to some instance of which you may not like being called out affects your judgment. But let me tell you that let me tell you what I've never done. I've never created fake accounts just to engage in online bullying. I've never gaslighted a public to try and prove that what you hold as proof is just lies. I've never created videos to tear you down as a person. And I've never mailed out to everyone in your local community articles and newsreels to showcase your misdeeds. I've never created rumors about you to dissuade people from believing that you're good people, all of which one of your board members has had a hand in these actions done to me. Now, I have called you bullies because where I stand, that's what you are. Because you either engaged in it by voting me out of my alma mater because it's something you don't know anything about, or created policies that were so pointed that I'm sure it only affects myself. So I created this complaint to openly show that one of you has engaged in online bullying, and the rest of you have been complicit by not censuring the actions, whether they were outside the time limit for reporting or not. Now, considering the documents in front of you, there are specific posts done by a local fake account that can source back to one of your board members and their husband. Of course, in Kirby, it's normal for fake accounts and groups to show up, especially during elections, which one of your board members has not only been behind, but has always been active. But what I'm concerned with is this engagement from my District 2 rep, who has actively stated that false statements were indeed fact, which included, and as I have stated in my last speech, that this profile always follows suit with the local political ideas of the school board member. Now, I get the reason to have a fake account from her seat, but it is by far the most vile one yet. It has at times asked for my death and made fun of someone's teeth or feet, and up until she got on school board, for some reason it now has opinion on matters of my involvement here. Now, to ensure public disclosure, I want people to be able to hear what was posted. I'm sure they won't get the opportunity to see the picture. What's listed are 4 former council members of the city of Kirby: Mike Martin, myself, Dr. Susan Street, and Miss Debbie Walsick. And it calls Mike Martin a lying piece of exploitive excrement. And myself, a convicted sex offender. Dr. Street as Dr. Know-It-All, and Miss Walsick as Debbie, it's dumb exploitive. Well, there is a very distinct comment from my District 2 rep saying facts are facts. Now, these are indeed not facts, primarily mean girl tactics that this person has openly engaged in many times. But it is not right to openly condemn when children bully to other children, but you allow your representatives to bully other adults in their communities. Now, if this thing did happen in JISD, my expectation would be for there to be some type of recourse to show the child that these actions are not okay. And I expect nothing less than this school board to do the same to Ms. Faulkner. I believe a censure is in order to discredit the behavior and show the district that you do not agree with this behavior as a whole. I would like an apology from everyone, including the superintendent, as this representative represents the board as a whole in JISD. Also, I and many others have been blocked from the online social presence of my District 2 rep, specifically a Facebook page that was created for the sole purpose of representing the district, which I have also included a picture of. I have been notified by your attorney that because JISD has not asked for this page and does not monitor it, that there is no violation in the case law of Linkey versus Freed. But that is a fallacy, as no public officials are ever required to create an online presence. In that case, in Linkey versus Freed, a city manager was sued by blocking commenting on a Facebook page. The ruling in the Linkey-Freed case that I mentioned in this portion was a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling that public officials' social media activity can constitute state action. And it provides a test. One, they must have the authority to speak on behalf of the state, and in this case, the school board. Now, anyone who sits on the school board has the authority, hence why I'm asking for apologies from all of you, as you are all representatives of this board in JISD. Secondly, there must be a use of their authority when speaking on social media. Now, the page that myself and others have actively been blocked on was a page with very specific language that says, Stephanie Faulkner, District 2 Board Trustees, JISD. Now, I can't imagine that there's more demand for authority or power than that. It's very specific to the representation of a specific board member that represents my district and the school to which I pay my taxes to. To block anyone from access to the news and doings of my district rep are against the Supreme Court ruling. And that really is to everyone. If you have ever created a page to represent your title as a politician, you cannot block people. That is what the case is referring to, and any legal to state any different I would question their ethics. But your liability, I would question your ethics, but your liability when someone sues to have access. Oh, I'm sorry. Any legal to state any different, I would question not only their ethics, but your liability when someone sues to have access. Your lawyer stated that Ms. Faulkner does not have the authority to speak on behalf of the board or district, but I disagree. When she was given the title of board member, she was given that authority. And if that was indeed not the case, then I would collect that none of you have the authority to speak on behalf of the board. And I see an online presence for all of you, including a meeting recap from the board president. If you all did not have the authority, then JISD or Judson anything should be stripped from your social media, and it should not be used as a vessel to inform. The big issue here is some people are getting the information and some people aren't. As I stated before, your board members and my district rep may not like me, but since I am a tax-paying citizen, you do represent me, whether you like me or agree with me or not. I deserve just as much access, and for you guys to not write, I deserve just as much access, and for you guys not to write specific ordinances that just affect me as any citizen who pays his fair share. Lastly, I wanted to remind you that neither the board nor the district, nor any district employee shall unlawfully retaliate against me or anyone I've mentioned for bringing this concern or complaint. Also, I do believe that the police should look into the origins of the Karens of Kirby and the Kirby peoples, as I'm pretty sure the IP address will lead you to a little house on Ackerman. As I have stated, bullying starts at the top, and if you guys don't condemn it, then you're complicit and not better than the bullies themselves. You absolutely wouldn't want this behavior in your schools, so you should control it on your boards. One last thing that I do want to point out is everything that I spoke in Linkey and Freed, I downloaded the case law on it, so let me read you a few excerpts from how that runs. So in one instance, it says, conversely, context can make clear that social media account purports to speak for government. For instance, when an account belongs to a political subdivision, so like the City of Port Huron Facebook page, or it is passed down to whomever occupies a particular office. So in other words, Port Huron City Manager Instagram account. And in this situation, that's exactly what I'm talking about here with this Facebook account. Lastly, and that was to meet the 2-point test that I was talking about, which basically, if we were talking about it, it said, had an actual authority to speak on behalf of the state in a particular matter and purport to exercise that authority in relevant posts. And that's what this is actually providing. So That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you. The administration may now proceed with a reply.
Yes, ma'am, our lawyer is going to speak on our behalf.
Good afternoon, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Hannah Kramer. I'm here with Dr. Fields and Dr. Taganod. Dr. Taganod did issue the level 2 decision. She wrote it. That's in your board packet. And then, of course, Dr. Fields is your superintendent. Before I get into the presentation, there was a few things that I just heard for the first time that I want to point out. This is a grievance for Mr. Garza, and so he did name some other people. This is just him filing the grievance. He's the grievance, so I'm not going to address anybody else because they're not here today arguing for themselves. He also mentioned a fake account calling for death and talking about somebody's feet and teeth, and I just don't have anything in my board packet about that. I think this is the first time that we're hearing about that, and so I'm also not going to address those things. I'm just going to address the things that were done at the level 1 and level 2 grievance. As you heard presented, Mr. Garza is grieving a board member's social media account. Just by way of short background, in May 2024, Mr. Garza submitted 2 grievances, and those were consolidated in accordance with your GF local policy. He was requesting 2 things. One is that a board member unblock him from their Facebook page, and 2, a public apology during a board meeting to all people that were named on the Facebook post. He talked a lot about Linkedy versus Freed. One of the big takeaways of this case is that because the First Amendment only binds the government, the claim is a non-starter if a person posts as a private citizen. And that's something I'm going to talk about today. But I want to point out that board members don't relinquish their First Amendment rights just because they become a trustee. In this case, Mr. Garza is pointing to a specific Facebook post that's on page 7 of your board packet. Mr. Brooks heard the level 1 grievance, and then Mr. Brooks denied both requested remedies based on not having the authority to require a board member to unblock somebody on social media and not having the authority to require a board member to issue a public apology. Mr. Garza appealed, and in November, Dr. Taganod served as the level 2 hearing officer. And during this grievance, in addition to the 2 requested remedies I just mentioned, he also asked for verbal assurance that a board member would not comment on individuals, including council members. And I would just respectfully point out that Mr. Garza is not currently on the Kirby City Council and has not been for the duration of this grievance. All of those 3 requested remedies were denied, and so that brings us here to today. So on the first issue about blocking constituents, like I mentioned, school board members don't relinquish their First Amendment rights just because they become a trustee. That would be a really dangerous domino effect. This Linkedy versus Freed case is a pretty landmark case for those of us that are in school law every day, or representing governmental entities. And it does a really good job of addressing the bounds of the First Amendment rights of a public official. On page 20 of the board packet, you'll see Mr. Garza's analysis of that law, and respectfully, from his written analysis and verbal analysis, I respectfully disagree with his analysis. In this case, there's that 2-prong test. One is the government official has to possess actual authority to speak on the district's behalf, and 2, they have to have purported to exercise that authority when speaking in the relevant social media posts. The case also says that for a public official's activity online to be considered government and not private activity, the official must have actual authority rooted in written law or longstanding custom to speak for the government, and that authority must extend to the speech that allegedly caused a violation of rights. This board has never delegated authority for the specific board member that this is referencing to speak about the Kirby City Council or people who ran for city council. You also have your good governance policy handbook that says that it must be clear that the official spokesperson for the board is the president and the official spokesperson for the district is the superintendent. Additionally, it's clear that this particular Facebook page does not purport to exercise that authority because there is a disclaimer that says the views expressed on this page are my own personal views. Additionally, the district doesn't sponsor, support, fund, monitor, or manage any board member's social media accounts or delegate authority to anyone other than the board president to speak on behalf of the board or the district. The blocking of Mr. Garza from this particular Facebook page was not done as a Judson ISD action, and it does not violate the laws or the Supreme Court's analysis of those laws. And it's the administration's position that the board member referenced in this grievance has the authority to block individuals or post her own opinions from her personal page. And so on that point, we would respectfully request that the administration's level 2 decision be upheld. The second requested remedy is for an apology. It would have been inappropriate for Mr. Brooks or Dr. Tagenod to make a recommendation for their superintendent or their board members to apologize for a comment posted by somebody in their individual capacity. I'll also point out again that this is not a student or an employee who is at the district every day. This is a community member who has an issue with a particular board member that's completely unrelated to Judson ISD district business. And of course, people are free to issue apologies as they deem appropriate, but we don't believe that it's appropriate to ask somebody or force somebody to make an apology. And so for that reason, we would respectfully request that the administration's level 2 decision be upheld with regard to the written apology. The third request is that an assurance that the specific board member won't post about people again. Again, it would be inappropriate for the administration to recommend that a trustee provide a verbal assurance that they will not engage in commenting on social media. Like I mentioned, trustees don't relinquish their First Amendment rights when they become trustees. And for those reasons, the administration respectfully requests that the board denies Mr. Garza's grievance and affirm the administration's response to the grievance. And we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Each side will now have an opportunity to present a 3-minute rebuttal statement. Mr. Garza will go first.
Okay, first on the rebuttal, what I would like to present is page number 4, which is exactly what it seems as though the attorney is trying to avoid. Now, this profile here is very specific, and it does not say it is the expressed, of myself as she was speaking prior. And as a matter of fact, I mean, there's no determination as to when these are the expressed opinions of myself ever actually got placed on that Facebook page. But this one right here says, Stephanie Faulkner, District 2, Board Trustees, Judson ISD. Now, the thing is you are allowed to have your personal accounts, but to have an account that's very specific to the JISD board does fall within Link D versus Freed, because the one she continually speaks of may be her personal account, but this is the one that none of us have access to that are like blocked in the district. These are the ones that I'm talking about being blocked from particularly. Now, the other thing is this is online bullying. There's no denying that this right here on page 3 was online bullying, okay? And the expressed opinions of one of your board members is actively engaging in it. I didn't start coming here just because I wanted to. It was because there was active bullying happening to me. And because of that, I came here to make grievances. It's not a specific grievance with only particular member. It is a grievance with everybody who kicked me out of all the schools based on very specific language in an ordinance. So when I bring to you these grievances or this type of bullying, I find it appalling that we're turning a blind eye to it and saying this is not something we should be concerned with. And the worst part is she was speaking of not basically having access to all the other stuff, and then she speaks of how I did my other level grievance and there were other pages, and that's what I'm talking about.
1 minute, sir.
Okay, on those as well, on the last one, there was actual postings here, and as I stated, it's online bullying. It doesn't go away. It doesn't just start because, or it doesn't just go away because it was posted 4 years ago. It's still there, and it still calls out to the same stuff of which I'm saying. So when you give a 2-week period to say, hey, this is too late, you can't say this, it was only brought to my attention, or it was only shown to me at a certain point of which I brought it to you, and that's what I'm trying to get at. But still, for you or for your attorney to say that this does not settle Link D versus Freed, I am absolutely appalled. That is absolutely incorrect. Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes. You may now present your rebuttal statement.
My name is Hannah Kramer. He's saying that this is not specific and that we don't know when it happened. I mean, you could all pull up the Facebook right now and see that there's a disclaimer. So I don't know when Mr. Garza took this screenshot. This is what Mr. Garza submitted. What I can tell you is that I only see a fraction of the Facebook page. I don't see the whole page. And that when I checked this morning, it had a disclaimer. And I don't know, and I assume that that disclaimer has been on there for quite some time. I also want to point out that I do agree that this falls within the Linked-Fried analysis, and that's why I analyzed the case. It doesn't meet the prongs of the test, though. The Linked case has 2 prongs. 1, you possess actual authority to speak on the state's behalf, which no board member here has, except for the board president does have authority from the Good Governance Handbook, which has been voted on and approved by the board, that can be the spokesperson for the board, and the superintendent can be the spokesperson for the district. And 2, purported to exercise that authority when they spoke on social media. This social media page specifically says that this does not represent the views of Judson ISD. I also just want to point out that this is a person's personal page that does not pass on. So when this person is no longer a trustee, it will continue to be their Facebook page. It won't go on to the next person who represents that precinct. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions from members of the board? Ms. Eaton?
Okay, Facebook. Some of us don't even have a Facebook page, so honestly, other than what I've looked at in these, in the book you all provided for us, I have no idea. And why are we talking about something from 4 years ago? And what is gaslighting? Okay, I'm not trying to be funny. I really don't know this.
I'd allow Mr.
Yeah,
Garza
I would defer to-
give his definition.
Gaslighting is basically when you're told a fact and then you basically avoid at all costs the idea of what that fact actually is. So in other words, you are told something like, hey, this person is bullying me, and you're like, no, bullying doesn't happen in this school. Bullying has never happened ever in this grade, or it just goes down that line. That's what gaslighting is.
So you told us something and we acted like we didn't
Yes, ma'am.
believe you?
Actually, if you look at my old grievance, that was May 6, 2024, which is what? like
If
a
I
year
may interrupt, I'm sorry to be rude and interrupt you, but you're talking about a grievance that's not here in front of the board tonight, and so I would ask that we could keep the conversation to the board, to the grievance in front of the board.
Yeah, but she's stating that she doesn't know what I'm talking about, and on May 6th, this grievance was actually presented to you, and you
No,
guys.
I'm asking you, is that an example?
Yes.
Is
Yes, this
that what
an example of
gaslighting is?
Gaslighting, absolutely.
Okay.
It's knowing about these things and then basically pretending that you don't know anything, it doesn't happen.
No, I didn't say I didn't know
No,
because.
no, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to explain what
Come on,
gaslighting
Mr.
is.
Garza, don't do
I'm
that.
not, I'm just trying to explain what gaslighting is.
Okay. I have nothing, because I really don't understand. I don't have, I have a Facebook page. I think the last time I was on it was in December. My grandbaby sent me something for Christmas, but other than that, I don't even visit y'all's pages. I never even seen them. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
why this is so frustrating to me. He doesn't even have a page.
We
Jeez.
can talk about that as we discuss.
Okay.
Ms. Ryan?
Actually, Ms. Stanford hit first and had a button issue, so I'm going to let her go first, if you don't mind.
Ms. Stanford?
Yeah, so one quick question. Now, there's a difference between personal Facebook pages and political Facebook pages, right? There are some different parameters that govern one over the other.
I think that Mr. Baker can probably speak better to that in closed session.
We've talked about it before.
Yeah, so if you have legal questions, then we can go into closed session. The parties won't be here, the public won't be here. I can give legal advice in closed session regarding our legal analysis related to these Facebook pages, but in general, I can confirm your statement. There are differences between the two.
Okay, well, I'll clarify that in closed session. And then, let me see. I think one comment you had made, Chris, at some point was that you don't have representation.
Yeah, basically the way that it sets out is there are certain people who are getting access to my District 2 rep's Facebook page that is very specific to District 2 rep, and they have information about what's going on and other stuff that I may not have access to. I mean, I don't know. I've been blocked from this for a year already.
May I respond to that, his point? No board member's Facebook page is the official channel for Judson ISD News, and so as far as accessing that, I believe that there are other channels through the district official Facebook page that you are not blocked from, so you actually do have access to all of the official news of the district.
Well, and I just wanted to say, me being an all-district rep and Ms. Ryan being, we would also be your representatives. So we can be contacted, and I don't think either one of us have blocked anyone. So you have access to our Facebook pages. So you're not represented. I just want to
Okay.
say that. And you certainly have access, I'm sure, to both of us for information that you feel you need to clarify or get. Do you still help co-manage the Kirby Community page?
Yes, I do.
Well, I just want to say personally, I understand what it feels like to be blocked because you denied a post I tried to make on that Facebook page. And my post was simply information, and you blocked it and put me under.
Ma'am, I'm not the only admin on there, so
And I
there's
tried
no
to-
way to make determinations that I was the one who indeed blocked it, so.
See, yeah, that's what starts happening, right? No one knows who's really doing what. But I will say that I did have that experience and tried to get clarification and never got any response back. And I was just trying to give information. So I do understand the feelings, and I'll yield the mic for now.
Ms. Stanford, if I may, Dr. Fields just reminded me also that all board members have access to their district email address. So that's another way that you have access to your representatives.
Ms. Ryan?
I guess some of this is district and board, there's somewhat, you guys don't control us completely, obviously. We're the board type things. Some of these questions feel a little weird to be asking you, but we'll, do it that way. We don't have a school board Facebook page, correct? We have a district page monitored by district and is the voice of the superintendent, but we don't have a school board where we post all of our board stuff on social media, right? No Instagram, no Twitter, no nothing.
I think that's probably getting into a little bit of a legal discussion that we can hit on whenever we
Okay.
retire into closed session and address Ms. Stanford's question.
Okay.
So if the rest of your questions are of a similar vein, or if there's anything related to that, maybe hold off on that and ask the questions for the parties now, and then we can bring them back after the legal consultation.
Okay, no, I've got a couple of the ones from the packet. District, you guys mentioned Lindkey Freed, obviously, actually, both sides really did, but in that case, that specific case was a personal Facebook group. Personal Facebook page was the original case. It was not a mayor of wherever, or there was no official title in that person's Facebook post, right?
So in that case, the person had actually created the Facebook page, I think, when they were like in college or something, and so it was a personal
Correct. It was their
Facebook page.
personal
Yeah,
page.
it was yes.
Okay, because Mr. Garza noted in his O'Connor Ratliff versus Garner, right, Mr. Garza?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that was specifically a school board one
Yes, it
related to Facebook pages with their titles. So what was your argument with that one? You talked a lot about Freed, and you
Okay.
noted it in here.
The reason why I posted or I sent out about Garnier was because what it did was it actually hid, it was a school board, so it made more sense. But what it had done was it had basically pushed back the decision and based it on Lindkey Freed. So my idea was like, okay, well, if it's going to your attorneys, what's going to happen is they're going to utilize Lindkey Freed, they'll see the two-pronged test, and they'll run it off there. But when I finally got my level 2 back, it didn't mention anything about it, just that in Garnier, that it did not fit the same thing, and that one had not, it had just been like taken back, it had not been ruled on. So that's the reason why now I am like saying, okay, well, listen, when it pushed you back to Linked Freed, there was a two-pronged test, of which your attorneys have stated as well. And when she's saying that it doesn't fit the two-pronged test, when it comes down to your district, and this is for everybody, for your district rep Facebook pages, that's where I came down to the case law of Linked Freed. And if you read through the case law, it states that conversely, context can make it clear that social media accounts purport to speak for the government. And then it says, for instance, so like if it was like you were asking about a board page, if it was that, it would allow you guys to speak for the board. But then also it says, or is passed down to whomever occupies a particular office, e.g., an P. Huron City Manager Instagram account, which is essentially the same thing as saying you are a Judson ISD District 2 account. So that's how it supplies, the first, or it supplies for the litmus test of Linked Freed. And that's the reason why I came back and just started discussing Linked Freed in length rather than Garnier.
And
Do you
just
mind?
wanna- go
Do you mind
ahead.
if I answer your
Go ahead,
question as
please.
well? I want to point you to page 14. Dr. Taganod laid out the state of the law in this. Garnier did go to the Supreme Court, but it was vacated, and the Supreme Court vacated, which means that the Garnier case is not good law anymore. Linked versus Freed, which is the case that he's talking about, is the
Okay.
case that's currently law.
And remanded back, so
Yes,
waiting
ma'am.
on decision
Yes,
on that.
and basically what the court did was remand it back for then the Supreme
look.
Court said, now that you have my opinion in Linked versus Freed, apply that in Garnier.
Okay, which will be interesting to see how, within a different type of Facebook page, I know we're all watching that one closely. The other, last question I had, Mr. Garza, you also referenced Governor Abbott's House Bill 20. But what do you think House Bill 20 has to do?
Okay, well, House Bill 20 was.
I'm not familiar with that, I tried to glance through it, but.
Yes, so when you get through the Linked Freed case, it does talk about free speech and that type of stuff, and it references House Bill 20. That was the reason why, like, when I was submitting it, I was putting it all in steps together.
Okay.
So, you guys could look at each piece. That's all.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure. I can ask the lawyer if there's Texas law specific to this that may be different than federal law. So, okay, I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Ms. Eaton, you had something else?
Did you make a copy of that for us too?
The Linked Freed case?
That and I guess House
That
Bill 20?
No,
Is that in our
I did
packet?
not. I did not. I mean, I submitted what the cases were, and unfortunately, it's not in your grievance packet, but I mean, it absolutely should have been. I mean,
The board already received a copy of that a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago related to something
I
else.
just
So
feel
it's
like
on your email, Ms.
Yeah,
Eaton.
the attorneys
Dr.
probably
Field
should have
sent it to us.
provided that to you.
No,
Thank you.
when we go in close, he'll explain it. I just want to understand.
Yeah.
Any other questions pertaining?
Real quick, this particular example that you included in the packet where someone else posted some offensive statements about some people on city council, and then a person, she replied, when did this happen?
Okay, so when I brought to you guys the last one after May 6th of 2024, I had brought to you a whole bunch of stuff that had been the scenario. So what happened was when I came up here, it was told to me that I was outside my time limitation based on the dates of which these things were posted, okay? So what I did was I basically went back and I filed my first level grievance to stuff that was within your time period. So it literally happened within 10 days of May 6th of 2024.
Because-
Now, hold on. The reason why it's taken so long for me to get here is because I do have a job, and my job takes me out of town on occasion, and it had taken me out of town for a very long time. So as it sits, I mean, that's the reason why it took almost a year to get here to finally get to a level 3 grievance.
Well, I was just really trying to clarify
When the post.
if she was
Yeah,
even
same.
on the board when this was posted, actually.
Yeah, I had the same question. So when it says April 22nd, that's April 22nd of 2024 was the original post? Because it doesn't show the date
Yeah.
on the top. That would have been 24, so
I
then
have
that
no
would have
clue.
just been sometime after April 24,
Yeah,
to your
I mean,
knowledge?
it might, I
Is
have
that what
no
you were
clue.
asking?
I was just trying to clarify if this actually happened when she was even on our board,
When did Ms. Faulkner get put on the board?
on the board. It was,
May.
was in the fall or
23.
August
August
23?
Okay, and this was April 2024 was the post, and then the comment was obviously after, sometime after the post. Okay.
Okay.
Is that what you were asking?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was just trying to get a timeline
Yeah.
on that. And it's
Yeah.
obviously also not anything to do with school board stuff. It's political stuff, which really gets, I've seen some of your politics at Kirby, Chris. I'm glad I'm not running for something. It gets rough over there.
Yeah, I know.
You guys. I mean, maybe you could be kind of a leader in changing that.
Any other questions? Thank you. The Level 3 grievance conference is now concluded. Before we excuse the parties, I will now review with the members of the board this proper process for reaching a decision in this case. Having heard the Level 3 grievance, the board has several options. 1, the board may vote to grant the Level 3 grievance. 2, the board may vote to deny the Level 3 grievance. 3, the board may vote to grant in part and/or deny in part any or all of the Level 3 grievance or requested remedies. Or 4, the board may take no action. In making its decision, the board should consider only the grievance presentation and administrative response presented tonight at this meeting, as well as the documents contained in the record. We will not consider any statement, rumor, or other information that we may have heard outside this meeting room. At this time, I'm going to ask the board members and Mr. Baker to step into closed session pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, so that the board may ask Mr. Baker any questions they may have about any legal issues involving the grievance.
We leaving?
The time is now 4:18 PM, and we are adjourning into closed session.
Ms. Noor.
We will now return to open session to make our decision. The time is now 4:40 PM. We are on the agenda item, hear and consider and take possible action regarding the Level 3 grievance filed by Mr. Christopher Garza. Is there any discussion?
Ms. Canoyer, I have a question really quickly.
No, sir, I'm sorry, your grievance is over.
I understand that. I'm not going to ask a question about the grievance. I'm asking a question as to why this is not being live streamed.
We do not live stream grievances.
My last grievance was actually live streamed.
I'm
Sir.
sorry, that'll be a discussion later.
Okay.
I would like to point out that our trustee Facebook accounts are created by us in our personal capacity. My personal Suzanne Canoyer District 1 account is linked to my personal Suzanne Canoyer account. It is not passed down to another trustee like the President of the United States, like U.S. senators, when they have their official accounts, when they are elected or they leave the office, that account does get transferred to the next person coming in. That's not the same thing here. So these are personal accounts. As a personal account, I rarely block someone from my personal Suzanne Canoyer page. I've never blocked anyone from my Judson page, but I've never had any harassment against me personally that would require me to do that. I think the circumstances here are different. Is there any other discussion? I move that we deny Mr. Christopher Garza's grievance and uphold the administration's decision at level 2. Is there a second? Second. Please vote. Confirm, please. Motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 1 abstention, and 1 no. This matter is concluded, and there being no motion, no other discussion about this, the board will move to the next agenda item.
Thank you.
Our next item is pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, attorney consultation regarding legal issues related to Level 3 parent grievance process, and pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, 551.082, and 551.0821, hear and consider Level 3 parent grievance. At this time, we will go into closed session. The time is 4:43 p.m. just need everybody to sit down so we can start the meeting.
Smart move.
We have returned from closed session. The time is 5:09 PM. Because the grievance have not appeared, we will not be hearing the grievance. We do have one more item on our agenda, which is item 7A. Consider and take action regarding approving the ranking for the request for proposal 2412 for Cibolo Creek Middle School Library book collection. Is there any discussion? This is the item that came from our regular board meeting that wasn't posted correctly, so we had to do it today so that we can get
So I'm
that
like,
order
didn't we
in.
write to this one?
We did the one for
Selma,
Selma, but not
but we
for,
did do
but
Cibolo.
not for the
Okay.
middle school.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? It's exactly the same as the Selma
Okay.
one. No? So I move that we approve the ranking for request for proposal 2412 for Cibolo Creek Middle School Library book collection. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Salinas, for the second. Go ahead and vote, please. Motion passes 6-0. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 5:10 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. I'll see you next week at your gala.
Thank you, ma'am.